Good afternoon. Welcome, fellow Rotarians, guests, and friends, and a special greeting to those of you who are joining us via the web. Welcome to the November 4th meeting of the Rotary Club of Cincinnati. We thank you for being here with us at the Hilton today. We are really excited about our program. We have a great program that has been planned for you via the office staff, but in particular with our corporate roundtable members. So we're very excited about our program today and glad you are here. We will have the invocation and four-way test following the national anthem.
Creator and sustainer of all that is or will ever be, accept our thanks for this day and all its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and all of our actions. Guide us in our service. Keep us well so that we can serve. And bless those peoples around the world who are touched by our works so that they too can have a joy of fulfilling life full of good health, companionship, and surroundings that are all beneficial to all. We pray that you continue to bless the work that we as Rotarians of many faiths do to help those who are less fortunate. For we believe that one manifestation of the Golden Rule is in our Rotary motto, service above self. Bless our corporate member, DePaul Christo Ray, who is sponsoring this meeting. Keep them strong in their wonderful mission to form young women and men of integrity, faith, tenacity, and purpose. We thank our corporate member roundtable and our panelists who are sharing their expertise with us today to support employees and employers for continued collaborative and successful outcomes. Bless our fellowship today. Bless this food and those who prepared it to the nourishment of our bodies. In your service, amen. Now we say together our four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you. Please be seated. Next, we will have our prospective members, visitors, and guests to be introduced by Bill Stilley, followed by a presentation of our meeting sponsors, DePaul Cristo Rey High School, from our corporate member roundtable, new member, Savon Taylor.
Thank you, President Melinda, and welcome to Cincinnati Rotary Club 17, the 17th oldest Rotary Club in the universe. It's my pleasure to introduce prospective members and guests. As I mention your name, will you please stand up so that we could recognize you? Patsy Bond, with the Cincinnati Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, is a guest of Andy Mangenheim. Matt Nephew is a guest of Dan Long. Nicole Schisler, with First Prevention, is a guest of Pat Neal Miller. Sid Taylor, with DePaul Cristo Rey. Jim Young, wow, Jim, you're with the same company I'm with, retired. A guest of Rick Finley, welcome. Stephanie Sheard, with Steph Style 101, a guest of Steve King. And Bill Froschauer, a guest of Hux Miller. Welcome to Club 17.
Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to sponsor today's meeting. My name is Siobhan Taylor, and I currently serve as the president and CEO of DePaul Cristo Rey High School. We at DePaul Cristo Rey have the tremendous blessing and privilege of taking high school to a higher standard. We execute a unique educational model for students that combines 4 years of high school rigorous coursework with 4 years of professional job work experience. In short, all of our students take classes and work a job during their school day. Our corporate work study program seeks to develop tomorrow's workforce and talent pipeline by providing you, local businesses and nonprofits, with real, on-site student employees. Our students work in a variety of industries, from healthcare and education, banking, to law, logistics, and information technology. The sky truly is the limit for our kids. If you happen to be interested in becoming a part of our story, or have an immediate or upcoming staffing need that we can help you with, please feel free to stop me or a member of one of our team, or members of our team who are sitting in that center table. We also have materials at the table, of course, in the lobby. Thanks so much for listening to us, allowing us to sponsor today's program, and we invite you into the DePaul Christo Rey story. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Siobhan. Next, we have a special presentation by our bowling committee with Dr. Hux Miller and Ed Mathis, Rotary Bowling. Woohoo!
Well, first of all, we have sad news. Club 17 has always liked to give multiple opportunities for athleticism to our members. But because of injuries this year, we have had to cancel the tackle football team, the rugby team, and the ice hockey team. The only team that remains for those of us athletically inclined is the bowling team, and Ed is going to tell you about that.
I was pretty bummed out when the tackle football team went away. Just thought I'd throw that out there. So me being a newer bowling member, I started off for people who are, looking to get out there and think about bowling and haven't really given much thought. I started as a sub. Then the next year I kind of did a half a year, and then this year is my first year doing a full year. And I happen to say, I don't think Gary Kendall really understood what finely tuned machine he was bringing out there when I consecutively have brought in between 60 to 80 pins every game. People who don't know bowling, that's the best score you can get. And people who do know bowling, don't talk to the ones that don't know. So we meet every Wednesday over at Stone Lanes, over at 3746 Montgomery Road. We start bowling at 7 o'clock, but people start rolling in about 6:30 to get practice. We do about 10 minutes of practice before we start going. And so we just want to cordially invite you out to possibly come out and see what the bowling is all about. If you have any other questions, reach out to Gary Kendall, past President Don Keller, Hux Miller, or myself, and we'll get you on the list to come out and sub and just see what it's all about. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today.
Thank you very much, Hux and Ed. We appreciate that. Hopefully they'll have some more members of the Rotary Bowling team coming up soon. Next, we have our announcements. The announcements are as follows. We have some birthdays this week. November 3rd, Gary Kendall. If you're here, please stand. Gary Kendall, George Verkamp, Chad Nider, Shane Dixon, Bill Stilley, Molly Rydell. Happy birthday. We will not have Split the Pot today, so please keep and hold on to your funds for Split the Pot for next week. And if we have some volunteers for that, please make sure you sign up. Hands-on service projects coming up this Saturday, November 6th. We will be at the Loveland Bike Trail for Friends of the Little Miami Trail workshop, sponsored again by the Hands-on Service Committee, led by Dr. Hux Miller. We need about 10 volunteers for that project, meeting at 9 o'clock at the Foster's Trailhead on Old 3C Highway. We'll be eliminating some of the honeysuckle and planting trees out there, so if you're interested and are available, please see Dr. Hux Miller and dress appropriately. Ghana School Project, this year, our World Affairs fundraiser will provide funds to the Ghana schools. You've heard about that before. We have Bafor and Tony Autry, who are our hands on the ground in Ghana for the project. This year, we will be providing 5,000 textbooks, 500 dual desks. You may remember the photo with the students, 4 of them standing around one desk. So providing those dual desks as we did before, and 40 bookcases. We will support planning 4 school buildings and improving the educational experience, branching out again to additional schools for that project. The areas of the focus of the curricula will be math, science, social studies, English, and computer science. The textbooks are sustainable, so they'll be able to be used year after year with the students who come in, which is really great for them. They've done a great job in picking out the curriculum. You can attend this year's fundraiser that the World Affairs Committee is hosting. It will be November 10th at the Bance Studios. Christy has some handouts, some flyers. If you're interested, members, guests, and friends, just raise your hand. You can get a flyer, and we invite you to attend the fundraiser for the Ghana School Project. You can make contributions at your table. If you'd like, there's some envelopes there, or see Christy or Linda at the office. Family of Rotary, please remember to view your E-raise. There's a lot of very good information on the E-raise. We try to be mindful of your time as we make the announcements, and they all can't come from the podium on meeting day, so please read the E-raise for some additional announcements and detail. Our condolences and prayers go out to Rotarian Chad Nider and his family with the loss of his father, Ralph, that happened Sunday. So you can keep them in your prayers and thoughts. Congratulations to Brian Vielhauer, our Rotarian, for 20 years of service with Decal Impressions, and he's done a lot for our Rotary Club. So let's congratulate Brian. Also, congratulations go to Rotarian Susan Wilkinson. Susan was presented with the American Society for Clinical Pathology, ASCP, Mastership Award at their annual meeting in Boston last month. It's a very high honor, and we congratulate Susan. Members who receive this award have significant contributions to the field of pathology and laboratory medicine, and of course to the organization itself. So congratulations to Susan. If you see her, make sure you congratulate her on that award. Next week, our meeting will be the Veterans Program, and our speaker will be Staff Sergeant Braxton Gordon of the U.S. Army. That's our program for next week. So please be mindful of these announcements, and make sure that you check the E-raise for some additional ones. Now, I get to a very exciting part of the program where we are about to introduce today's program. Really excited about that. Next, we will have our program introduction by our corporate member, Cheryl Parker, and then she will tell you what we will be moving forward with our corporate roundtable committee after that. Cheryl?
Good afternoon, Club 17, and thank you, Melinda. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Christy. I am Cheryl Parker. I'm Director of Public and Government Affairs for AAA. And on behalf of our fellow corporate roundtable members, I have the pleasure of introducing today's very timely and very important discussion. It's a topic that really affects everybody in this room, whether you are trying to hire someone or your products and services have been delayed by workers' shortages. It's a serious problem, and there's not one person in this room who hasn't been affected in some way. For those of you who are not familiar with the Corporate Roundtable, well, it's not advancing, so I'll keep going. We want to start with a little bit of background on the Corporate Member Roundtable and why we exist. The Roundtable provides an exchange of ideas that benefit our corporate members as they lead their organizations, and the primary focus is service and support. It identifies ways that others working within the corporate member organizations can become involved in effective and fulfilling community service opportunities, and at the same time, gain skills and knowledge that they need for their organizations and for Rotary. The Roundtable is looking to enhance the corporate member roundtable experience. What you will hear today and see today is one of those examples. And ultimately to grow the Rotary's corporate membership. That is something that will benefit not only the corporate member organizations, but it will benefit our club overall. I'd like to show you the number of organizations that are part of the corporate member roundtable. There are 20 of them. That number is growing, and with your help, it can grow even more. And there they are. They have magically appeared. Those are the all of the logos of the corporate member organizations. We are very proud of this group, and I want to say a special thank you to those who have been involved in putting the panel discussions together. Dave Carlin, Kelly, if you could stand, Kelly Collison, Bob Will, Jack Scott, Al Conscious, and of course we've had tremendous support from Melinda and Brett and Linda and Christy. So thank you to the committee. You may recall that our first panel discussion a couple of months ago featuring CEOs talking about leading through and learning from COVID. Well, today, we're talking about a problem that has been greatly intensified by the pandemic, and that might be putting it mildly, something that affects every industry. Businesses and organizations trying everything they possibly can to fill positions, to keep talent. The great resignation of 2021, undoubtedly keeping leaders up at night, wondering if what the next morning is going to bring as they try to keep employees happy and their businesses afloat. Staying alive, challenges and solutions to attracting and hiring and retaining talent. We've assembled a very accomplished panel. If you could begin to come forward and take your seats. A very accomplished panel for a discussion led by our own club treasurer and president nominee, Doug Bolton. He's also the president and CEO of Cincinnati Cares, very passionate about what he's doing for his organization and for Rotary. We are so fortunate to have him today as our moderator. Doug, thank you, and thank you to our panel. We're looking forward to a wonderful discussion. Thank you.
So much. Let's give these three another round of applause because I know they have so many things that are going on in their lives that is important and urgent, and they're taking some important time out of their lives to help us be informed and understand the issues. So let's give them another round. And so I'm going to start with the person that I've known the longest, Liza Smitherman. And also, Liza, you'll accommodate my questions that were not provided to you ahead of time, so that the other two panel members can get ready for them. But I mean, Liza, you and your husband formed your company more than 20 years ago, Jostin Construction, and you have become such a pillar in this community. Can you, for a second, help us understand what the last 24 months has been like for Jostin Construction? Just as a starter, a high-level explanation of what was life like March 12th, 2020, and then March 20th, 2020, and take us through to today.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Doug, for throwing that softball to me right away. I just want to say, first of all, thank you to the Rotary Club for inviting us to be here, this group that I sit here alongside, and hope that we are able to both listen from you all as well as share with you some of the things that we're addressing. So the last 24 months, just as Doug mentioned, we are a full-service construction company that was started almost 24 years ago by my husband and myself, so we're a first-generation company, and we're in construction. And so really, even prior to a year ago, the pipeline of talent in the construction industry had continued to evolve in a direction that we weren't necessarily happy about, that folks weren't as interested in being in the trades or even seeing a career that they could tackle and really raise a family doing. And so we were already challenged with workforce and talent issues. And then March of 2020 happened, and I remember standing in front of the TV watching to see if here in Cincinnati construction was going to be considered an essential business and that we would be able to continue to do the work that we had already been involved in, and we were. And so we were happy about that, and at the same time challenged with how do we manage to keep our workforce who are out working in the elements every day, the majority of them, how do we keep them safe in a time that was very uncertain, and how to do that. We have some really great strategic partners who have been part of our business for a long time, and I was chatting with one of them, your very own Al Conscious, who was very much involved indirectly with how he continued to help support our work even prior to the pandemic, and that made a difference during this time when we were able to utilize what we call our stakeholders, who are not necessarily shareholders in our business, but those folks that we could reach out to say, how do we manage through this time? So we are all about relationships, and we utilize those during this time. We also made sure that we were very transparent with our employees, both internal and external, as far as who works in the office versus out in the field, to make sure they understood what our first and foremost mission was, which was to keep them safe and to continue to provide for our customers and our clients that we were working for. So that's a lot of what we did.
Thank you, Liza. I'm going to jump over to Ryan. And Ryan, just like I said, I was going to let you prepare for that question. I'm going to change the question on you. So, perfect. So Ryan is joined Jeff Ruby Culinary Entertainment as the Chief People Officer in December of 2018. Now has the title of president, spent years at Macy's in human resources, and before that at Target and Sears Optical, all as a part of being the part of the group Luxottica. So Ryan, walk us through the joining a Jeff Ruby Culinary Entertainment from your very different life in managing human resources for these giant companies, and then take us through to the last 24 months, what life has been like for one Ryan Coslett.
Wow, thank you. First of all, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here. I've never done this before, and I'm getting to meet so many nice people, so thank you. This room is beautiful. Before I answer the question, I just want to, on behalf of the topic at hand and the hospitality industry, make sure that we, if not now, sometime today, thank the lovely men and women who prepared and served our food today. It's been a fantastic lunch, so thank you. So yeah, the past few years have been wild for me personally and professionally. The decision to join Jeff Ruby Culinary Entertainment was not a difficult one, with the 40-year history of the organization, and despite much of my background being in retail and certainly in HR, the company in 2018 was at this really interesting time where we were building a new restaurant in Lexington, and growth was on the horizon, and there were lots of exciting possibilities in terms of human resources work to lean into. But at the start of the pandemic, roughly about that time, March, April, our CEO, Brittany Ruby Miller, as many of you know here, I think she's spoken to you once or twice. She was put into a position where she had an opportunity to raise her hand and stick her neck out a little bit and try to lobby or advocate for the entire restaurant and hospitality industry. And I was proud and privileged to help her, watch her, do that, and I think hopefully save many jobs and help the industry broadly, bring some attention, shine a light onto the problems that we are all experiencing across industries. But for me personally, to the question of how's the last 18 months or so been, it was wild, because at that time I think we realized that she needed to spend more time focusing on those advocacy type things, and so she asked me to step into this role and sort of get into the nitty gritty on a day-to-day basis. And so I've just been trying to fake it and figure it out since then, man. Honestly, that's where we are. But it's been, I think most of us would say, it's easy to say that, in all seriousness, that since March of 2020, that it's been a nightmare, it's been terrible, it's been all these things. But I think in reality for our organization, it's been a bit of a gift and a curse, in that it's caused us to learn a lot internally, to examine what we do, to get closer to our people. We're literally a family business, but we definitely became more of a family business through this time, and learned how to get scrappier, learned how to perhaps be better stewards of our money, and how to think differently about how we make sure that we provide the best experience for our employees and safety and all these things that we've all had to navigate. So in a way, I really look at it as a blessing, even though it's certainly not been boring.
Thank you, Ryan. Sherry, as if you didn't have enough going on in your life as a 20-year-plus human resource professional, you did a job change, joining Tire Discounters as, I think, their first chief people officer. They didn't have that position before. After an incredible remaking of the Frisch's human resource function for 4 years, and then before that spent I don't know how many years with Wendy's and managing 6,000 restaurants and the people inside those restaurants. So what was life like making a major personal change for you, and then reflect on what you know about what it has been like at Tire Discounters for the last 18 months?
Yeah, well, thank you, Doug, for the question. And again, I'll echo both of my counterparts here. Just appreciate the opportunity.
There we go. Thank you.
And if I think about my particular journey, and yes, I did make a monumental shift this past year, but when I think about why I did that, it was really around, how do I have impact? How do I make a difference in the lives of individuals? And I felt like it was time for a change. I felt like I needed a new chapter to write and script that. But I always knew that service was at the very core, spending 12, 13 years in the restaurant space, so I understand very much what Ryan is talking about. I wanted to be able to bring those things to bear in a different industry and learn differently and make a difference. For me, it's always about making a difference, and it always starts with your people. In any business, regardless of how big or small you are, it starts with the lifeblood, and that is your people. And if the pandemic taught us anything, it taught us that the human experience was far more important than anything else. This wasn't a financial crisis per se, like it was in 2008. It wasn't an IT crisis when it was Y2K. This was a human crisis. And we had to look at that differently. So regardless of what industry, we put a different lens in understanding what our people needed and putting them at the forefront, where in some cases we may have lost sight of that because we were running our businesses and we were doing what we needed to do, and things were humming along, and I completely lost it. And so I think that was the most powerful thing. So when I think about my career change and that next chapter, is I wanted to be part of, maybe something more. I wanted to be part of something where we were impacting people's lives, and we were growing, and we were making change and making impact in all the communities that we are supporting and part of. And so for me, I think that was an exciting time, and why I made the decision to join Tire Discounters here locally. And then I think about the last 18 months for them. It's been an amazing journey. So unlike the restaurant space, where we were challenged beyond measure, and every story that you heard about the industry being decimated was true,
In the auto space, things were changing. The availability of new cars isn't there. The chips are stuck. And so the reality is people are keeping their cars longer, and so for service needs to be applied, and there needs to be people available to do that. So we're seeing a monumental shift in the auto industry, and in particular in our business, that is causing us to ramp up and think differently. And so kudos to the leadership at Tire Discounter and the family, because they capitalized on that. We started Skip the Shop, so that we're going out and providing concierge so you can safely have your oil changed or your tires changed or new tires, because we wanted to understand what that meant for people and making it safe. So it's been a challenging time, but a rewarding time, and people are rallying around that from a culture perspective, and all those things to help us really unite around the human aspect. Fabulous. So from my perspective, here's what I will offer. There is no silver bullet. Sorry, doesn't exist. The reality is what we continue to find is you have to keep trying new and different things. So sometimes certain things will work a certain time in a certain community, and then it won't work. And so just being that mindset of being very flexible and open to testing and trying different things, I think has been a powerful thing that we've been working to make sure people understand. Posting and praying is not an option. It doesn't work. So those that are trying that, it's not going to. It's not going to help. But what we're finding is doing quick hits and testing and learning. So we're doing virtual. We're doing virtual interviews. Something you wouldn't have heard of especially in the automotive, which is very blue collar. You want to see the experience. You want to see the story. You want to see what the work environment's like. But we're finding virtual is an important tactic that we're looking at. While I was at Frisch's, we were doing drive-through interviewing because we were trying to find safe ways to be creative in what we were doing and how we were doing it. But what we're finding is looking at those vehicles of technology, texting, things of that nature are certainly ways that we're finding of capturing and connecting with individuals in new and different ways. And that's not going to go away. And at least in the environments that I've been working in right now. But those are just a few of the different things that we're trying and continuing to try every day.
Yeah, I agree. There's no silver bullet. The start of the pandemic, as we were forced to furlough over 600 employees, as I'm sure many of the organizations here were as well, it was incredibly emotional, and it forced us, I think, to look inward or in the mirror a bit and try to think about what we could control, because the world around us were a lot of things that we couldn't control. And so I think as a leadership team, for better or worse, we started with ourselves and we said, what's really our employer brand? What are we signaling to candidates, to our communities, to our own staff about what it means to work at Jeff Ruby's? And as we were kind of being honest about that, we realized a couple things. We realized that we probably weren't being as direct as we could in promoting some of the benefits and the perks and what it really meant to be a Jeff Ruby Culinary Entertainment employee. We probably weren't necessarily showing our values, company values out there visibly throughout all of our materials to the public as much as we should be. So we started there. We looked at our job descriptions. We looked at the posting. Certainly looked at different types of media which we could post and so forth. But we made a very intentional decision to be more forthright in what do we offer that might be a differentiator for us. What do we stand for as a company? And we also made a very intentional attempt to make some of the language in those job descriptions a bit more gender neutral, which some folks might roll their eyes at a little bit, candidly, but this is a real thing, especially in an industry like ours where it's historically been primarily male employees. We wanted to be intentional about showing female applicants, potential candidates, that this is a place where you can thrive and have a career and feel safe and be a mom and all, et cetera. So we started there with job descriptions. I think the thing that has two things that have probably proven most effective that we're doing differently over the past 18 months or so than we were doing before is we also, if you've been to any of our restaurants, you know, we try to treat our guests like family, or I guess depending on how you treat your family, like royalty. maybe that's a better word. But you know, we weren't necessarily historically always doing that for candidates, and as they were going through the interview process, as they were coming even through as onboarding for new hires. And so we worked with creating interview guides and standards and training our hiring managers to really understand that it should be a very important candidate, not just a very important guest in the restaurant. And so to the extent that we can, we've really tried to elevate that experience, whether someone was a successful hire or not, to make them really feel what our guests feel and what we try to take care of our employees with. So that's, I think, been successful in you know, the approach for us. And the last thing, I think that's much different now than it was then, and it ain't rocket science, but it works, is that when we had I still remember the day, I get a little emotional thinking about it. We were able to start to recall our staff. Those phone calls were emotional and just moving, and I remember thinking to myself, my God, we have 700 recruiters right here, man, and we've never really taken advantage of that. And so we just made a decision. Let's ask them. They've had tremendous experiences, hopefully, with the organization. We have great tenure and great retention. And so we just made it very clear to them through our management teams and directly to our staff through communications to say, hey, if you guys know somebody who might be a good fit for our organization, please, send them to this website or send them to this HR leader, and we'll make sure that we speak to them. And wouldn't you know it, some of the best staff that we've been able to hire over the past year and a half have come from new recruiters who are hostesses and dishwashers and servers and so forth. And so I think the lesson for me has been, if you don't ask, then you won't get results. and so just ask, be brave. You might be surprised how many people within your organization are proud to work there and actually willing to have these conversations and champion roles that you have. So I think those are a couple things that have really been successful and will be around for us for a long time.
So Liza, talk about you talked about it in your opening about how the construction industry has been facing labor challenges for 20 years or more. So how is it different now, or what tools are you employing now that you didn't even when you were challenged before?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, just how we are addressing this talent challenge, and Ryan really set it up for me in his last comment, because we've had to deal with this problem for as long as we've been in business and before. One of the things that we do utilize are our own people. So we are a company that are very much driven on our values and what we call our why, which many of you are familiar with, but it's not just about what we do and how we do it, because all of us in this industry do it very much the same way, but it's why we do it. And so for our business, it was really about creating and providing a diversity of opportunities for all, which is really our beliefs and our values, but we had to articulate that, put that into words. And so who we work with, whether it's internally, our own employees, or externally with the clients and customers that we engage with, they have to align. We want to have alignment in that regard. So our people are very, very important to us. We recognize the value that they bring. They are our assets, and when we're struggling to have them, that challenges our business. But they could not be any better recruiters, better than any posting, prayer, or anything else that we might want to do to bring folks in. So a very specific thing that we did this year is we actually offered a referral bonus, which would not be that unfamiliar to many of you. What we did to kind of sweeten the pot, especially for our field professionals, as we call our workforce that work outside each and every day, is for every person that they referred, for every hour that that person worked, we would pay them $1 for every hour. And so if their referee worked a 40-hour week, they got an additional $40 on their paycheck. If they worked 60, they got 60. And as long as everyone stayed in good standing, that was how we moved forward. And now we just upped it to $2 an hour through the end of the year just for a holiday additional incentive. But we will run that for a whole year for that employee who refers someone to the business. As long as they stay and they work, for every hour they work, they get that $1. Those dollars added to their paycheck. And so for the first time, this isn't the first time we've done a referral program, but it's the first time that we're like the posting and the prayer, that's not where we're getting our people. We're getting them through our own people who, this is what they do each and every day, so they can't be better advocates, they can't be better ambassadors for our business in what they do each and every day, and they support one another in that regard. So that's a quick answer to kind of one thing we're doing.
So that leads me to my second question, which is about retention. So obviously that referral bonus works as a retention tool as well. Yeah. Other retention tools that you know?
Yes, that's one thing we did, we actually within HR shifted, currently actually been my HR director, into a different role this year. Called a talent training and development specialist, because he's really very much a people person. And again, it's not a new concern or issue that we've had as far as retention in the construction industry. We pour a lot of concrete. So our guys start at 2 in the morning. They were out there this morning to 3 in the morning. It's very cold, and it's hard work. We also have a general contracting side that have more normal hours, but the point is, for some, this is not something that they would want to do. So what we have known this for some time, that we really needed to identify someone who could really be the coach, the cheerleader, the support for our employees each and every day. So we shifted someone into a role that would do that, and who would really then utilize our own employees, and we call them allies, to work with especially our new employees who are coming in. That first 90 days is pretty critical. And so he works to assemble a small group of our field professionals who work with many of our new employees who come in, so that they can kind of be it's not a mentor, but more, again, their ally, to support them through those first 90 days. And then from a retention standpoint, investing in their continuous upskilling, that he is providing that training and utilizing, again, our resources within the field to help train our people. So, when folks feel that you are invested in them through their training and development, they tend to maybe think this could be a place I should stick around and stay. And so that's what we did. So we've invested in a position for that purpose.
Share any retention tools?
Yeah, so from a retention standpoint, we're starting with really understanding, it kind of goes back to Ryan, is the employee value proposition. So why do people join and why do they stay? And getting really better clarity around what are those things that really matter. Is it the environment? Is it the culture that we create in our stores? Is it the flexibility in their work? Is it they have opportunities to grow with us? And sometimes it's pay, and sometimes it's the benefits we offer, but getting really clear in that process. So we're engaging much more holistic exit interviews to really understand that. And then before that even happens, stay interviews. What makes a person really want to be part of it? And then we also are looking at our high turnover stores and digging in culturally. And our HR team is redeploying and beginning to spend time in those stores to say what's going really well that we need to capitalize on, and what are those pain points that we need to be thinking about. We just started what we're calling an HR engagement tour. So yesterday, I spent all day in our stores. I had my ball cap on and my boots, and I was moving tires, and I was just listening and just being present and having somebody from home office spend time and solve problems. We had a bay door break, and they're like, okay, well, that'll be 2 weeks before we can, so we couldn't take care of guests. And so I'm like, I can't lift the tire over my head, but I know who to call to get the door fixed. And so what we're finding is just being present and just listening and hearing is making a tremendous difference because they feel like they're being heard, and that's going to help us retain talent.
Excellent. Ryan, anything? If not, let's move to the next question. Realizing I've got a lightning round of questions for you, plus I want to get to any questions we have in the audience. So I know your constructor field workers can't work remotely, your office, your store managers can't work remotely, restaurant workers can't, but you have some staff that are potentially remote. So what is your policy? What are you going to do as far as this whole now new, when I look on a job board now, half if not 3/4 of the jobs are listed as remote. So what's your policy? How are you doing it?
Well, as you said, in the restaurant business, it's hard to serve and prepare food remotely. So of remote available positions. But what we've tried to do is, knowing that that's the case in our industry, we've tried to focus more on what are the things that the remote, that the candidate or the applicant who might find a remote role appealing, what are they really after ultimately? Because most of them, in my experience, aren't necessarily after sitting in their PJs while their kids run around. They're more about convenience and work-life balance and schedule flexibility, et cetera. And so we've tried to, at the restaurant level, think about how do we improve those things. And that started with taking an honest look at our time off policy and expanding that to the extent that we could financially afford as best as possible. And to celebrate that with our teams, to listen to them, as Sherry said, to what do you guys want? Not just push it down and hope that it's something that sticks. We've also invested in payroll so that we could have, in particular, salaried managers, more of them, so that we could reduce the amount of overtime that was necessary at the restaurant level, so that our teams, management and frontline, could have the time to be able to rest and recover and have more flexibility and have 2 days off, and et cetera. So that was a starting point. I think there's a number of other things, whether it's trying to help with parking. We've expanded as I said, a paid family leave so that we could allow, in particular, for mothers to have a little bit more flexibility with that. But it's not a secret sauce necessarily. I think it's just, again, listening to what our teams want and trying to get feedback once we put these things into place to make sure that they're actually meaningful to our staff. One of the things I will tell you that was a little surprising to me, maybe it shouldn't have been, but as we began to put these COVID policies, protocols into effect to reopen our home office and our restaurants, we found that in large part, I think, especially for our home office team, man, they were chomping at the bit to get back into the office. So we almost had the opposite problem where we're saying, we have to be safe and you guys need to be home. And I think they had as much Zoom fatigue as we did. So I think it's a nice balance of trying for us to just, when does the work require us to really truly be there? When can we enable remote work? Encouraging those who it's viable to have a remote position to do so, and just staying flexible and not rigid in knowing that this is 21 and it's going to keep evolving, and we're going to ride the wave and do what our people think are telling us that they want to be helpful.
Sherry, policy on remote versus not?
No, we do not have a policy, and for us, we have been really focused on our culture and that culture of collaboration and being in the office. So we've been back in the office since March of 2020, ahead of the game. And it's gone well. That doesn't mean we haven't lost some talent because they don't want to come to the office. So we're continuing to navigate through that. But part of who we are as a brand is that collaboration and that coming together. So we're going to continue to have to navigate and figure out these flexible avenues and what makes sense for us, but right now we're fully working together.
Liza, what about your management?
Yeah. So we're kicking and screaming on this whole remote work. We are not for it, and not because our folks want it, and in fact they don't. And kind of to Sherry's point, our work culture is such that all of our folks within our office like to be at work. We made adjustments in March of 2020, so we were not all in like that all the time. But March of this year is again when we made the shift back, and we have had no one who has asked or wanted to work remotely. What we have, and we just had a meeting this week to talk about it, is back to what Ryan said, really the flexibility, especially for some of our folks who have children who need that, and now we know we can work remotely. So we want to be able to say, if you need to work from home today, then you can do that. Whereas pre-COVID, that wouldn't have been something we would have been as not that you couldn't, but you can truly work and be at home and do that. So that's kind of the direction that we're going. And then for our field, again, a lot of what you said, we get out there, we want to be with them. We're actually all assigned so many hours as salaried people that we have to go work in the field because they just want to see us and love to be around, see that we want to be there with them. They can't work remotely. We don't have to work in the elements like they do each and every day, so we're now assigned so many hours that we have to go work alongside of them. And that they really, really appreciate that, and we appreciate being able to do that with them.
So some of your answers clearly answer the question around, is there any benefits that are kind of becoming more popular, more accessible? You've already started to answer, but if there's any of them that you want to talk about, please hold the mic up and say, I want to talk about this one. While you think about it, go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah, are you ready? Okay. So I think one of the ones that I've found to be highly effective, and I haven't instituted it where I am today, but one of the pivotal things that we did at Frisch's was, and many of you may have saw some of the signs and the flyers of work today, get paid tomorrow. And that was a powerful benefit from a recruiting and retention. And it helped open some doors for us in terms of realizing our workforce and the need. We paid weekly, but our teams still needed extra support. They needed a safety net because life happens. And so what we saw with that was 34% of our hourly workforce actually tapped into that opportunity. 36% of our management actually tapped into that. And they didn't use it every week, but it was just a safety net for them, and it was powerful. And it resulted in a 60% improvement in retention for those that were daily pay users versus non-daily pay users. So it was a powerful tool, and I'm looking forward to looking how that may make sense in my current environment.
Okay, excellent. So any questions out here? Raise your hands, and I didn't turn my back and ignore you while I ask this question. What does your crystal balls say about when are we going to return to normal? Or is this the new normal, this disaster of a career you all have now as far as people management? What is your, Ryan, are you telling Jeff and Brittany, hold on, this will get better in 6 months?
I'm saying let's just all party together. Let's figure it out. That's fortunately, all of us in this room and outside of this room and across the world are dealing with the same thing. So I try to remind everybody of that we're all in it together. That here's the reality. The struggles in terms of finding talent are here for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. I think the labor pool is not getting larger, and the jobs needed are slow, maybe shrinking a tad, but not in relation to the talent pool. And so that's a reality that we're all going to deal with. As I think about that, as I talk to my team, there's a couple things that I think optimistically and proactively we can do to get ahead of it. I think it's not going to be already, but it's not going to be good enough to just be an okay employer. And so it's much as difficult as it is for some of us to hear that. It was hard for me to think about that, about what we were doing a year and a half ago. But you really have to take an honest look at what you're doing, what you're offering, what your employee experience is. Because if you're not providing compelling things to your candidates and to your existing employees, you'll struggle beyond what we're already going to have environmentally to be dealing with. So one quick thing on the benefits question that I just want to mention, because I do think it's applicable beyond the restaurant industry, is COVID caused us to have a lot of conversations, one-on-one conversations, personal, emotional conversations with staff who were very candid with us about mental health and about addiction and these types of issues that are plaguing everybody. And I don't see those issues going away anytime soon either. So we made a very intentional point to, as a leadership team, to speak with more vulnerability, more openness, provide more resources, whether it's through employee assistance programs or through, we've partnered with some organizations that offer help with these things, and just being honest and hoping to create more of a safe environment for people to say, hey, I'm struggling with something. So I think it's been a game changer culturally for us. It's bonded us with our teams. I think it's helped not just with retention, but with the health and the productivity and the engagement of our staff. So I think these challenges that we're all facing are here. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball to say if it's 1 year, 2 years, whatever it might be. But the reality is, if we don't collectively and individually as employers make these steps forward to provide a better experience, we're delaying that progress. And so I encourage us to look internally.
Bill, go quick.
What's your view on how you deal with mask and/or vaccine mandates?
Fabulous. Thanks.
You want to go there?
Thanks, Ryan. So,
help from your friends.
Yes, exactly. It's a challenging topic. And I think every organization has to look inwardly around what that means to them, what is their culture, what message are they sending by taking any stance, whether it is to fully mandate vaccination or masks or whether not to. It really comes down to who you are as a brand, how you want to show up, and how you connect with your people and your workforce. And so that is yes, I'm doing a bit of a dance, and we know what is happening right now, and the news reports coming out. But I think it's the reality of we have to look really hard at what we're trying to solve and why we're trying to solve that, and is it true and authentic to who we are, understanding it is about the human experience and what does that mean for each and every individual.
Let's squeeze in one more question. I saw somebody's hand go back there. Yes.
What's your opinion of the younger generation's work ethic? They're always on their cell phones. Do they really want to get out there and work?
Right. Two of which are in our business. So even to your crystal ball question and to that, our number one value is diversity wins. And when we talk about what the future holds, the millennials are very much a part of that, obviously. What we find is that the richness of our organization exists because we are such a we have a diverse workforce, we are a diverse business, and a lot of the questions that Doug, you presented, as well as I'm sure many of you have for your own organizations, we get the answers from our millennials, from our Hispanic population, from our African American population, from our Gen Xers and some baby boomers that we still have that are part of our business, from the diversity of perspectives that our people bring to the table. So if you really want to know how things are going to, this is a good thing, and it's going to only get better if we embrace the importance of bringing in and listening to all of the folks who are part of our organization. And if we don't have millennials or people of color or various generations who are part of our organizations, then we're really doing ourselves a disservice. And we will not survive. We will not thrive. We will not continue to move forward.
Thank you very much. Great panel discussion. Thank you, Club 17. It's part of this discussion came from recommendations and answers from survey questions from you all, and our corporate roundtable members took it to heart, and they actually planned this program. It took a lot of work. So let's give the corporate roundtable committee another round of applause. There was very great points that I took notes of as you all were presenting, which was very good, related to no silver bullet, being flexible, also listening and hearing what staff says, being open generationally, looking at all of the aspects of your organization. Just a lot of very positive points that you shared today, making living and the realities of the situation that we're in and finding solutions to those. So thank you very much again, panel. We have Rotary pins from Club 17, specially designed ones. We have one of those for each of you. We will also give a donation in your honor to Rotary International for the eradication of polio. We have several meetings this afternoon. The classification committee meeting will be on the in the Mayflower room on the lower level. The membership development committee will be meeting in the boardroom 3 on the mezzanine level. The Condon School Party committee will be meeting in Salon A on the 4th floor. The World Affairs Committee will be meeting in the Mayflower room on the lower level. Additionally, the Corporate Roundtable Committee will have a section in the E-Raise this upcoming week. In that, we'll have some information that will follow up to this presentation, and also a link will be on there that has some job openings as well. So make sure, again, as I mentioned earlier, that you read the E-Raise, and if you have any questions about any future panels or any questions about today's panel, please see one of the members of the Corporate Roundtable Committee. And that is it. Make it a great week. Meeting adjourned.